Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away,
So Monday, Roger Christian, who's a set decorator, director, writer, he worked and earned Academy Awards for his work on Star Wars: A New Hope. He's a Star Wars insider. He knows George Lucas very well. He was interviewed by Star Wars Theory, and basically he said a lot of things. First of all, that George is coming back to the franchise, and he seemed very confident, and then he kind of was like, I'm prophesizing. But the interview wasn't missed by Clownfish TV, and it wasn't missed by Cameron and a few of his subscribers. I didn't pay any attention to it. It's just busy stuff going on here. I am now wondering if the big announcement Disney's got planned for the 7th isn't the return of George Lucas. Okay, first off, think about it. What would restore confidence in the franchise quicker? Nothing else could. George Lucas. Who could jettison the sequel trilogy and nobody could really have anything to say because Star Wars is his? George Lucas. Okay, now this is where I'm going to kind of veer off into my own theorizing. If this is so, if Roger Christian accidentally spilt the beans, tried to pull it back, or if he was basically said, hey, if you're going to do this, spill the beans. Tell him George is coming back. This says that the announcement is likely George. Okay, that this is, I still think it's probably going to be something about a new CEO. But when I think about where Star Wars is, where it's going, the only person who can inspire confidence is George, because George, he created it. It's his baby, and I think Iger would be wise to have him come back. And look, George backed him in the proxy fight, so maybe that was the deal. This is pure speculation on my part, but when I think about the rumor of Favreau leaving, and then all of a sudden, Roger Christian, of all people, who's a friend of George's, they can go to lunch together, they hang out. He's worked on 3 Star Wars movies with him. Why wouldn't he know these things, and why wouldn't he want to tell somebody? Okay. So is any of this true? I mean, is the theorizing on the right track? I think it might be. I think it could be. I think that we've got a lot to look forward to. And again, if George says we're retconning or completely shit-canning the sequel trilogy, then that's what they're doing, okay? And, you know, he doesn't even have to really be president of Lucasfilm to be present and to get his way on things, okay? I think I could see him making a deal like this. And the fact that, you know, Doomcock and WDW Pro are screaming that Jon Favreau's leaving again, third time now. This leak may be intentional. It may be just the thing that people will look at, and if it's true, then it shuts down that bullshit. The YouTube community, all right, there's a lot of cross-pollinating. You could be a subscriber to Geeks and Gamers, Nerdrotic, That Park Place, and the rest of them. And the fact of the matter is, you're going to hear the same game of telephone, only they all understand the message, so they all say it the same way. There is no objective thought going on here. Nobody's looking at these guys going, what? Shaking their heads. But they don't want you to challenge them. And this is where Star Wars fans, this is where the people that run the franchise, Favreau, Filoni, etc., have a lot of trouble. Now, you know, we were making predictions on Cameron's Patreon that George comes back and now, you know, they'll all change their tune from Favreau's fighting with Filoni to Favreau's fighting with George, which is, what? You know, it's you kind of scratch your head and go, what the fuck? You know? But I predict that could happen. But here we have this rumor, and it's not a rumor. It could be a leak, intentional or not intentional, because Christian, and I'll leave a link to the video. I didn't have Baz grab it because I don't want to use Theory's stuff. So I'll link Theory's stuff, this video, in the description, and you guys can watch it. He like I said, and this is from Pirates and Princesses, Christian was pretty much like, yeah, this is a done deal. Then he steps back and says, I'm prophesizing, and I read it or saw it somewhere. So, okay, let's speculate on where this could leave this creature here. Kathleen Kennedy, that doesn't even really look like her, but it is her, has not been seen nor heard from since last July. Jon Favreau's the one that speaks on Lucasfilm's behalf. He was the one that announced Mando and Grogu, and he was the one that spoke about Carl Weathers after Carl Weathers passed away on behalf of Lucasfilm. Okay. Kennedy shows up with Tony Gilroy, who's he looks like a child molester. I'm sorry, he just creeps me out. Looks greasy. Shows up with Tony Gilroy at the Screenwriters Guild of America Awards. That's the first time we've seen her in her typical black suit because she has no fashion sense. Okay. And it's like you're watching her and you're going, so where would this leave Kathy? Well, it leaves her out in the cold. Now, it looks to me, and I'm speculating again, that her getting the producer's name, her name on the producer's list for Twisters, might be an olive branch or part of the deal to remove her from Lucasfilm. Okay. Which I think makes perfect sense. And, what else is going on here? I mean, they sold their Showplace house. You've got Frank putting weird Taylor Swift lyrics up on his Instagram about somebody being defanged and all that. To me, when I look at stuff like this, I don't know what to think. Because it's obvious she's not there anymore. It's obvious that she's been cut off. And it's the reason why I think that is because what we acknowledge in the public is what Sparrow has alluded to in private. So this is something that I think the big YouTubers are going to have to acknowledge. And I think the 7th of May actually be the day they're going to have to, yell mea culpa, okay? Because something big is being announced. Is it a new CEO or is it George Lucas's return? And if so, that means the rumors about Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and Kathleen Kennedy are wrong and gone. Let's talk further.
I was at the movies.
Hey, guys.
Oh, Gonzo, hey, you want to do a puppet act with me?
Cue the disaster. What's a puppet?
Oh, well, see,
It's a doll.
Yeah,
It's made to look
it's a doll.
alive by wiggling strings,
Yeah, with
or,
strings.
or putting your hand inside of it.
hands, like that.
What a stupid idea. Who wants to watch dolls wiggle?
Well,
I mean, even I wouldn't do an act like that. Doll wiggling, talk about boring.
I didn't have the heart to tell him.
So let's assume that Roger Christian let the cat out of the bag. Let's assume that it was intentional. Let's assume that while we're speculating, that YouTubers started talking about Favreau leaving for the 45th billionth time, and Disney and Lucasfilm, George Lucas, Jon Favreau, Bob Iger, finally got sick and tired enough of this shit to put a teaser out there, and who could be better at it than Roger Christian? I mean, it has always stunned me, the fact that every time a big YouTuber, you name them, comes out and says, I have information, waving papers in our faces from my sources, waving papers in our faces, that Favreau's leaving, Favreau's fighting with Filoni, Favreau's fighting with Kennedy, and the imagination that they have that somehow Kathleen Kennedy is an untouchable creature, that she can't be removed, that she's not going to be leaving anytime soon. That is their imagination that has nothing to do with reality. Okay. First off, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are friends. They've known each other, I think, since before Lucas sold Lucasfilm, because Favreau was doing voice work on Clone Wars. Okay, so he was there, I believe, with all those guys. He knows them all. Okay. And he's a networker. Okay. He used to have a show about, he'd have a bunch of celebrities on, actors, actresses, directors, and they would eat dinner and talk, and that was just a table talk. So he knew all these people. Okay. Him and Dave Filoni are friends. Okay. Dave Filoni's a company man. He's not going to side with anybody if they're basically trying to do something that doesn't do any good for the company. Kathleen Kennedy, Tony Gilroy, Pablo Hidalgo, I don't think those people are his kinds of people. Okay. He is literally George's Padawan learner. Okay. That's who Dave Filoni is. Favreau and Filoni understand that to get to the point where they can either jettison the sequel trilogy, and please don't come here and tell me that that's going to be impossible. It's going to be so controversial. For whom? For whom? I really don't think a bunch of screaming blue-haired land whales and the, beta males that follow them around and white knight for them are going to make any difference, because their emotions show up on the internet. All right? They don't show up for movies. They don't have any money. They don't buy the merchandise. All right? You've got studies saying Gen Z doesn't want, franchise stuff anymore. I guarantee it. If you bring back Wolverine and the rest of the X-Men and do it properly, the movie will make well over $1 billion. And it won't be people my age going to it. Okay. Gen Z will borrow money from mom and dad and go and do it. Okay. And, I left this up, this picture of Geraldo Rivera, because watching the big YouTubers constantly butt heads into a wall with which behind the wall is absolutely nothing is fascinating to me. And now we've got Roger Christian, who worked on A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, and Phantom Menace, basically saying he knows that George is back. Now, I just showed you a picture of George sitting in on filming The Mandalorian. George was on the set with Rosario Dawson. George was probably on the set when they were filming the scenes where Luke gives Grogu a choice. Okay. And we're sitting here scratching our heads, me and other people look at the big YouTubers, it's like, why don't you understand what's going on here? Look, I'll leave you guys with this. The reason why we have assholes like Joe Biden in the White House is because people like this vote. And they never vote the right way, okay? Because they buy all the bullshit that they're being sold by corrupt politicians and corrupt media, okay? Then they turn around and tell you the sky is falling, all right? Again, these channels would not exist were it not for Kathleen Kennedy. And I think the time of her eclipse, being eclipsed by George Lucas, Jon Favreau, and Dave Filoni is finally happening. And it's been happening for a long time. This is Steph signing out. I'll see you around the galaxy.